Voters across the country lined up for the first day of advanced polls, making this the first day of large-scale voting in this election. In some cases, people stood in long lines for more than an hour, waiting for their chance to vote for who they think should lead this country. But in one Ottawa suburban riding, voting could take longer due to the size of the ballots. Here's the lay of the land in Canada's capital, where Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and Liberal leader Mark Carney's ridings share a border. Poilievre is running in the riding of Carleton, where he has been the MP for the area since 2004. And this time, Poilievre will be facing more opponents than ever because there are 91 confirmed candidates, and it's 91 in his riding. This is largely due to protesters running to bring attention to their call for electoral reform. One of those candidates is Mark Mutter, and he joins me now in the studio. Mark Mutter, it's good to meet you. Thanks for coming in today.
It's a pleasure.
This is not your first time on a ballot, or even the longest ballot. You were one of the candidates in LaSalle, Émard, Verdun. Tell me why you want to do this the first time and why you're up for it a second time. What are you trying to do here?
When I turned 18, it was my first time voting, and at the same time, it was the by-election season in LaSalle, Émard, Verdun last year. Mm-hmm. And for the longest time, I've been following elections on election night, seeing what's going on, and I've personally been noticing how there's an unfair amount of votes being attributed to each candidate. I mean, you oftentimes have minority governments which gain a lot fewer votes but gain a lot less seats in Parliament afterwards than they actually deserve. You're seeing a lot of vote splitting. You're seeing a lot of candidates that deserve to be represented, but even though they actually have votes, they have zero representation in Parliament, and I think that should be changed.
So you want proportional representation or ranked ballot? What is your preferred system here?
The longest ballot is a citizens' initiative. There's a lot of different people viewing this in different ways. A lot of people believe in representative democracy. A lot of others believe in ranked choice voting. I personally prefer ranked choice voting, as I believe that's the fairest way of doing it, but either way, we're all united against first past the post.
Okay, so you had just turned 18 when you ran, so you're 18 years old, and
19.
This is you're 19, and this is your second time running
Correct.
in a federal election. Okay, here's what I need to ask you about, though. The ballot, all right? You call it the longest ballot. We do arts and crafts here at Power and Politics. This is a replica of what people in the riding of Carleton are going to get, right, when they go in on election day. And you can see the challenges that is going to create for filling out, and this has been a nightmare for the staff who have to count this stuff, and they're going extra late. This is a pretty big riding with Pierre Poilievre running there. You worried about backlash from this? I mean, the results for the leader of the Conservative Party may not be known to 2, 3 in the morning, and I think people might be frustrated with this.
It's not the first time we're getting this concern raised with us. Last time we were riding in Verdun, we had the same questions asked. Mm-hmm. We had the same people complaining and wondering if this is going to prevent proper elections from happening. And from what I've seen firsthand, being there until 2 a.m., close to 2 a.m. last year, in the polling station, seeing it get counted, it was not as big of an issue as people believe it to be. As a matter of fact,
2 a.m. is really late to get results in a riding, right? Like
correct.
It normally happens at a pretty crisp way that you're able to get a critical mass to make a projection. That is late. You may not think it's difficult, but for those people who've worked long days, it is, right?
Certainly, but it did start a conversation for a lot of them. You have people who are voting there for the whole day. They're seeing a long ballot, and they don't know what's going on. And actually talking to them about why this is happening and why I believe this should be changed, and how there's a whole group of citizens who are coming together to actually get this conversation started on a national level is amazing. And a lot of people actually supported the group when this was talked about.
Right, but do you think it's built a national conversation for electoral reform? I mean, there are you look at cost of living, you look at Donald Trump, you look at inflation, you look at sovereignty and security and all of these things, like those core issues, and I'm not saying the state of democracy isn't important, but they overshadow everything else, right? So do you think, what you guys did in St. Paul's and in LaSalle has actually resonated beyond just those little moments?
Well, this happening right now is proof that this is starting a conversation. And I firmly believe that in order to have a country that's able to fight on the world stage, we need to have a proper democracy that actually represents what the people want. We currently have a lot of times in the history of this country in which we've had governments that don't truly represent what people voted for. And I believe to actually stand up on the world stage, to actually have a strong country in the future, we need to properly represent everybody's votes.
Why did you pick Carleton this time? What is it? Is this targeting Pierre Poilievre for a specific reason, or was it just time for a Conservative to be nailed because you did it in Liberal ridings last time?
Over the last few times of us running this, we've been accused of only running this in Liberal ridings. So this time we figured we're going to do this in Mark Carney's riding and in Pierre Poilievre's riding. But purely logistically, organizing the whole thing is really difficult. You need to gather 150 signatures per candidate in each riding, and that is very difficult to do. We were about to actually do this in Nepean and this time in Pierre Poilievre's riding. However, we just couldn't get the amount of signatures required to do this in Mark Carney's riding. So we figured might as well finish this off right now, just in one of the ridings, and do it properly.
Okay, so why do you think that was, right? Because, Pierre Poilievre has represented Carleton since 2004. Like, that is not an insignificant amount of time. He's seen as having a very strong base of support out there. How did you get 150 signatures times, what, 85 candidates or 86 candidates that you're running? Yeah, because to bring it all the way up to 91, because the Greens are running, the NDP, the Conservatives and Liberals. I mean, how were you able to convince voters in the leader of the Conservative Party's riding to sign those signatures, sign up?
People are surprisingly sympathetic towards the cause. Even last year in Montreal when we were doing this, I was out there gathering signatures, and people are curious about this. People are really used to the status quo. A lot of, especially younger people, are tired of the same thing happening over and over again. A lot of people from my generation are used to growing up for their whole lives, seeing this unfair system of first past the post being used in all the elections, and a lot of people truly want change to happen. So it's not difficult to get somebody to just sign a paper and to hope for the best afterwards, since I believe it truly represents what people want.
So why didn't it work in Nepean, in Mark Carney's riding? Do they not care about electoral reform and representation?
That is not the
Or
case.
like, what happened there?
No, it's actually just gathering the signatures. I mean, we had to stand there for multiple hours in each of the ridings, and I believe it was rainy on one of the days, so we just couldn't get the amount of papers out of the way properly. So it was purely logistical.
So what do you say to people who look at this and say, this is a stunt, and they're annoyed by it, and they think it's going to slow things down, and you've got an election that, for older people like me who, it's been a long time since I was 19 years old, who see this as maybe the most important election of their lifetime, and something like this is happening. What do you say to people who are going to be annoyed by this?
People are certainly allowed to view that way, and I sympathize with them. I mean, it's pretty simple to see how this complicates the election in a few ways. However, I really stand by my words that it is very important to properly change the way that our elections are held. If we really want our country to be strong, if we want our people to have confidence in our electoral system, if you want to have governments that truly represent what our people want, we need to have a system that's more equitable, that is more fair, and that better shows what people want in our country. And this is actually getting a lot of media attention. This is happening right now. We've been having a lot of attention back in Montreal, all across the country, of people tuning in and figuring out what the hell is going on, why are there long ballots? And people are learning about electoral reform in a way that they never would otherwise. You don't just approach people on the street and go, hey, have you ever heard of first past the post? We should change it. You don't just do that to people. You actually have to gain their attention. Okay, so on this ballot, you are... It'd be the second column.
Yeah, there you are. You're right here. In LaSalle, Émard, Verdun, you got 20 votes, I think, 0.1% of the vote, but that still put you in the top 10 just because of the way that thing went. I mean, do you want to do this for a career? Do you think you're going to go into politics? I mean, you're a young man. You've got a lot of options ahead of you. But, do you think this is something you want to do, or is this just a cause for you at this point in your life?
It is purely a cause for me. I'm studying in civil engineering, completely unrelated to politics in any way. But it is a field that's still related to the way our government is run. You're seeing a lot of infrastructure built, and you have to follow along with how ministries work. And seeing how it's all still fundamentally related to the way people vote, I just want it to change. I just want the status quo to finally be gone, and for young people and people of all ages, as a matter of fact, to stand up for what they believe in and to have a fair democracy.
All right. Well, Mark, my dad is a civil engineer. He had a pretty good career out of it, so good luck in your studies. That's Mark Mutter, running in Carleton as part of the Longest Ballot Initiative. Thanks, sir. Good to meet you.
Thank you.